Good morning everyone and welcome to the Cabinet meeting of Thursday 2nd of March 2023. First item on the agenda, apologies for absence. We're all here, so move on to the next one, declarations of interest. Are there any? Nope. So move on to the third item on the agenda, which is estimated revenue budget outturn 22-23, and it's going to be, the report is going to be taken by Barbara. Thank you very much, Barbara.
Thank you, Leader. This report monitors the revenue, income and expenditure against budgeted for the period to 31st of December. On the basis of the latest information and taking account of projected council tax collection, a year-end operational underspend of 1.4 million or 0.4% of the annual budget is forecast on general fund services, which is an improvement of 1.8 million from that last reported. This reflects the Department's efforts to avoid non-essential spend, as well as the recent industrial action by teaching staff and the projected increase in council tax receipts, and will assist the Council in meeting future years' budget challenges. However, this position could change significantly as the current year's Teachers' Pay Award has still to be finalised, and there's only an estimation included in the forecast. Conversely, it's hoped that the management action to avoid non-essential expenditure will increase the underspend at year-end. The HRA are forecasting an overspend of 123,000, which will be met from HRA reserves, and the reasons behind the departmental variances for both the General Fund and HRA are set out in the report. The position outline relates to normal operational budgets only. We'll also expect to have to meet 5.5 million on ongoing COVID pressures in the course of the year. However, these will be covered by utilising earmarked COVID reserves. Given the tight nature of the Council's finances in the current economic climate, we will continue to actively monitor the position and will update members again on the forecast outturn in the coming weeks. The Cabinet is invited to approve the budget adjustments shown, note the current financial position, and in view of the very challenging financial outlook for 2023 and 24 and beyond, require departments not to spend up to their operational budget levels at year-end. Thank you, Leader. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Barbara. Any questions? Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. Thanks, Barbara. It sounds quite a positive report, and just have a couple of questions, and in particular, to do with the first one's free school meals, and because I know it's also there's in the next paper it specifies like the grant for that in the future. It's whether it's ring fenced or not, or it says here on the table on page 4, and I thought this was a commitment from the Scottish Government though, but it's not ring fenced. Just a query, just if you can clarify that. And the next one really was the table on the next page, page 5, about education. There seems to be quite a high positive effect on the period 9 position. Again, but in reflection to where it was in the periods 3, 5 and 7. So that's two things really. An explanation please on those.
Okay, thanks. I can maybe take you the second question first, and maybe defer the first question to my colleague Paul. The second question, the 3.6 million on page 5, is just a position statement. So that is as at the current position. There will be accruals and grant coming in early, and spend hasn't occurred. So what the figure I would concentrate on is your probable outturn figure, which is 84,000 on page 6 for education.
So again,
It's timings, yeah.
Councillor Anderson, in reference to the first question, the free school meals, we have that coming through as part of the general capital grant, and we don't have that as a ring fence grant, but we can check that out for you, and just to confirm that.
Our Chief Executive would like to come in.
Thank you for that. No, the way it's been handled is appropriate. We get a list of specific ring fence grants, and it's quite a small number, But what does happen, if we refer back to the council paper yesterday, is we're asked to take on new additional burdens, and one of those was free school meals for primary 4 and 5. So we have to deliver that, but the money for it isn't ring-fenced. So if it costs us less, we keep the money and we can use it for other things. Unfortunately, if it costs us more, or over a number of years it starts costing us more, we still have to do it, even if it's costing us more, and that money then comes out of our core budget. So it is good that it's not ring-fenced, and sometimes that can. It's estimated COSLA, there's a distribution group in COSLA with the Scottish Government, and when new funding is available, they go through the different determinants about the number of young people, the number who are already on free school meals, and come up with a calculation. That's all agreed at COSLA leaders, and that money is distributed to us, but it's not specifically ring-fenced, although we must deliver that commitment. So it's good in a way that it's not as ring-fenced as some of the other money.
Thanks very much, and that clears that up. I guess it's good if we don't spend, but then I guess the problem is that if it costs more, we have to find it.
Yes.
No. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Barbara, this is an excellent report, and as Councillor Anderson said, really good to see that the outlook is looking much better than we were seeing before, which is good. Just to clarify, when do we get the next sort of updates on these numbers?
It will be for period 10, and it will be coming up in
Early April.
Early April.
Early April.
Yep.
So after the year end.
Yes.
Yeah.
Second question is really, it's more of a process question, and it might be best for Lorraine for this. It's really, there's a number of line items that have overspend. Clearly officers need flexibility to react to events and the likes. Just, it'd be helpful to clarify what the process is for approvals of overspend of budget items. Is that best with you,
Yeah,
Lorraine, or
yeah.
Barbara?
Barbara can help me out if I get any of this wrong. So we ask directors to manage usually at directorate level. So they would, the most important for them is they come in, the total they come in budget. You know, we've got to accept during the year that some go up and down, and that we do. If there's if earlier in the year there's a specific change that they discover they need a lot of money for something new, they will have to do a veerment up to a certain level. Margaret can approve that. Above a certain level, it would have to be approved. Can't remember, by Councillor Cabinet. One or the other. I think it would come up to Cabinet for approval for a veerment, because if it's big enough that it might change the strategic direction of what was approved in the budget, that would have to come up. Most times they manage to keep within that, and they just, so obviously we can't ask for approval for overspends, especially once they've happened, you're noting them, but the directors have to stay within their total budget as the way we manage it and give them flexibility within that. Did I get that right, Barbara?
That's very clear and very helpful. Thank you very much. So, if there are no other questions, we'll go on to the recommendations for that paper. If I can scroll to that. And the recommendations is members to note the continued financial pressures and operational services, note the forecast underlying general fund operational underspend of 1.3 million, together with HRA operational overspend of 123. Members approve the service variance and operational adjustments, and as Barbara said, all departments continue to closely monitor and manage their budgets to ensure that spending up to operational budget levels does not take place. We all agreed? Thank you very much. So if we could move on to the next item on the agenda, which, is it Barbara again or is it Paul? It's Barbara again, and we again, I can pull it up. It's not scrolling. Stop scrolling.
Page 45.
Page 45, sorry. Which is the General Fund Capital Programme, item number 4. So I invite Barbara to talk to this paper. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Leader. The report presents a position statement on the General Fund capital expenditure as at the 31st of December. This shows a shortfall in resources of 272,000, representing 0.8% of the resources available, which is within manageable limits. The report advises of a number of movements in the current year's capital programme, which the Cabinet is invited to approve. These movements relate mainly to timing of projects, reflecting shortages of materials and labour, as well as backlogs in tendering and site starts since the pandemic. This is impacting on construction costs, and officers will continue to monitor the position and provide updates. However, every effort is being made to contain costs within the originally approved budgets. Forecast expenditure for the year has reduced by just under 8 million since that previously reported in December 22 due to various delays, and so borrowing and grants have been deferred to align with this. Detailed explanations of reasons for major movements within the programme are set out in the report. The Cabinet is invited to note the report and approve the changes within the programme. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Barbara. Any questions on it? Councillor Anderson?
Well, I noticed obviously they looked at the list of the various projects in schools in particular. It's just I was at the Community Council meeting for Mearns, Kirkhill, Broome, and they were talking about the delays for the pitch at Mearns Castle. I'm not sure if, well, it wouldn't be a finance question really, but the delays that they're concerned about, and it's not been delivered yet, and maybe any update on that, please?
I don't have information on that today, Councillor Anderson, but I can follow up for you and come back with the detail. That's helpful.
Yes, please. Sir.
Yeah.
Any other questions? A couple of questions, if I may. I know I raised this yesterday, but I can't remember the answer. Capelrick House upgrade. So I think we do need more money that's in the plan that's currently stated, and that this will come to Council or Cabinet come April. Is that right?
Yeah, it will have to come to Council because it would have been increased to the capital programme. So it does look as if there'll be an increase in the cost, so Cabinet, we may bring it up at the time that it will have to go to Council. It may come to Cabinet first for a discussion as part of a recommendation. So we thought there is some late capital money that Paul's identified in this year's capital plan that could have been used for it, and it was even too late to get into, well, it's this year's money rather than next year's for the capital programme. We hope that would cover, and we always ask teams when there's an increase in cost to see what else where they can find it from underspends or new money or whatever. So we thought we were there. However, the team have just said and asked us not to rush into it, just to make sure that the cost's absolutely right. So Katrina's leading in that, and we'll be working with the team to get the exact costs, and then we'll come back. So we do have some of the money available, sort of allocated in their heads if Cabinet and Council approve, but we might need a little bit more than that, so we'll have to find that money. So I think we'd be aiming for April Council, I think is what we are trying for.
Okay, that's very helpful and very clear. Thank you very much. Barbara, another question. I've raised this previously with Margaret. I'm looking at the capital spend table, the progress report, and the General Fund Capital Programme, and the amount that we've spent, that we're forecasting to spend for the full year versus what we've spent so far at the end of December. So we're looking at a pretty, I think it's 15 million extra in the last quarter of the year, and we've only spent 17. So is that credible? I know we've had issues with capital always moving out, so just like to understand how credible that number is, and what we can do as a council to improve, our not so much the forecasting of it, but in terms of our planning for the capital spend.
Thank you. How we come to that figure is by going round the managers within the departments, primarily within property and technical, and they assure us that this money is going to be spent. I'm not sure if Katrina wants to come in on this.
Yeah, I'm happy to comment further. There's clearly problems with some of the delivery. Some of that's to do with the market and how the capacity of contractors, but others is to do with the capacity of the service, and I think that's probably the area which I need to focus on in terms of ensuring that we're profiling appropriately and have the capacity and the priorities all in the right place so that we are coming in accurately, and I'm happy to work with Margaret and the team to ensure we're getting our financial profiling correct on that.
Very helpful. Thank you very much.
If I could just a couple.
Yep. Gloria.
In capital programmes, just because of the way we have to get certificates in, it is often near the year end before some of those come in.
Okay.
Obviously, they're done regularly, is it sometimes monthly, usually quarterly, I think. But it does mean just at the year end you have to get everything costed, so you do have a jump at the year end that comes in. I was just looking here, you've got something like Nielsen Learning Campus, which as far as I know is going well, so that's quite a big lumpy one. We know that's well underway, so suddenly projects go slow as in the preparation and then they go very fast, and that's quite a big project, so that should help. However, there is always an underlying, in every property team I've ever dealt with in my life, an underlying optimism about what can be spent by the year end. Paul's now back to lead on capital plus a whole load of other things. And I think one of the things we have to really, and I know Katrina will be working on this as well, to say to the teams, can you guarantee you will spend that money? Because I think people do hold on to it. Now, in the capital programme, it's not the end of the world because it moves into the next year. But we are asking them to be more realistic, and we did do that over summer, especially when costs are going up, because we needed to move money around. So we are saying to people, please be honest about what you think you spend, but there is always that optimism bias, and we'll keep working on that.
Thanks. And clearly there's an implication on the revenue impact with the loan charges and interest as well. So, and as you said right at the start of the meeting, with the pressures coming in for 23-24, is something we do need to be mindful of and have a better view as to what we are going to spend our capital on. So thank you very much for that. So if I can go to the recommendations for this paper, which is note and improve the movements within the programme, note the shortfall of 272,000, and that this will be managed and reported within the final accounts for the year. Are we all agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. So going on to the next item on the agenda, scrolling down.
Page 67.
Thank you. Nearly there. Okay, so this is item number five on the agenda, and it's the Housing Capital Programme. And once more, we've got Barbara. So thank you very much, Barbara.
Thank you, Leader. This report similarly measures capital spend as at the 31st of December, this time for the Housing Capital Programme. The report shows a shortfall in resources of 103,000, representing 0.7% of the resources available. There have been a number of movements in the programme which the Cabinet is invited to approve. Once again, these relate mainly to timing delays due to the significant impact of the pandemic, as well as rising prices and material and labour shortages on both existing and new housing projects. Full details are provided in the report narrative. Due to the increasing cost pressures in the construction sector, officers will continue to monitor this position and provide updates in future reports. As a result of the changes in the timing projects, the new build grant income has been realigned and reduced by 0.8 million in the current year, and borrowing has also reduced by 1.3 million. Cabinet is invited to note the report and approve the transfers and movements in the programme.
Thank you very much, Barbara. Any other questions? Devin.
Thanks. Just a question in the progress report about the purchase of properties mortgage to rent acquisition. I see, the no properties identified. It's going to be very rare to get a property at £100,000 in East Renfrewshire, is it not? Is that money, obviously that's a grant for the Scottish Government?
That money is actually capital money, but we can match fund some money from Scottish Government. So normally they will support us on a 50% basis.
Right.
They will match fund us if a property becomes available that we want to purchase, but we still have to fund it 50% through our capital programme.
So we still need to fund it. So if we bought a property, say at £200,000, we need to look for £100,000.
Yes.
I mean, it's going to lie there for a long time if it's £100,000. So maybe the sooner we match fund it, the better to buy a property.
Any other questions? Councillor Anderson. Councillor Pragnell.
I ask on the communal door entry systems, it says the work is scheduled for 2023-24. What exactly is this? Is this the replacement of these systems or is it upgrades of the systems?
It's a bit of both. It requires both replacements where we can, but often it's upgrading the existing systems. We did a major programme a few years ago to replace many systems, but we still have a proportion where we have owner occupiers who may or may not want to participate, so we require a budget should that change.
Anderson.
My question is actually about the energy efficiency and the delays actually as a result of awaiting guidance from the Scottish Government. And do you anticipate that will be soon or?
We've been advised we should have revised guidance around August, September. At that point, we should be able to review our capital programme and what is required to meet these standards.
And there's no consequence to the fact it goes into the next year, financial year? Or?
It's unclear. At that point, one of the issues the Scottish Government are looking at is that the challenge to meet EISH but also meet our carbon zero targets are becoming a real challenge for housing providers to meet, particularly for older properties to retrofit them. So one of the issues they're looking at is whether the standards have to change because many landlords have raised concerns about the costs associated with that. So until we get that new guidance, it's very hard to know at this point of what the implications will be.
Thank you.
Barbara, I think the same comment applies to the housing account as applies to the general fund capital account in terms of timing and phasing. Would that be fair? Thank you very much. So if there are no other questions, can we go to approving the report, which the recommendation of the report is Cabinet is asked to note and approve the current movements within the programme, note the shortfall of £103,000, and that this will be managed and reported within the final accounts this year. Are we all agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. And I think with that was the last item on the agenda, and we can close the meeting. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.